What's going on, guys? So I got a question on YouTube from Noobs Online. So Noobs, thank you for the question. So basically the question reads, I'm thinking about starting Jiu-Jitsu, but the only thing that has kept me from doing this step is my fear of getting my shoulder injured. Suffered a dislocated shoulder a year ago. Can you give me some advice, and do you think I could start doing BJJ? So, of course, thank you for the question. Basically, you know, it's dependent on the individual, you know, depending on the person. But I'll give you a couple of guidelines to follow. You know, when you are someone that is going to start a sport or a martial art like Jiu-Jitsu, where, you know, the whole point is to submit the other person, whether it's by chokes or joint locks, you know, there is a risk of injury, so you have to take those into account. But so number one is just think about, have you done the proper rehab? Have you done the strengthening? Have you done the recovery work? Does your shoulder feel stable and strong? If you're seeing a physical therapist or a doctor, are you cleared for activity? So that's kind of the first thing. Make sure you're cleared to even start doing any kind of activity like Jiu-Jitsu or anything athletic like that. Number two would be, you know, does your shoulder feel stable? Do you feel like the shoulder feels compromised at times? Do you feel like it wants to dislocate just with general day-to-day movement or any kind of lifting or strengthening activities, any kind of reaching? Do you feel like that shoulder wants to pop out at all? You know, that's something else to think about, because if that's the case, maybe go back to step one, which is, you know, do the proper rehab or continue with strengthening and stability work. So number three, you know, if you feel like you've done those things and you're ready to start a class, go to observe a class first, you know, because sometimes Jiu-Jitsu can be it can freak you out a little bit. You know, you're seeing all these people rolling around, moving on the mats. You don't know exactly what they're doing or what's going on. So watching a class would be a great way to get an idea on what's going on. Look at the movements, look at the drills, see what the class entails, and kind of exactly what will be involved in doing Jiu-Jitsu. So number four will be maybe talk to the instructor. So look at, you know, follow up maybe with the instructor, send them a message or an email, or talk to someone from the gym that runs classes. Tell them, look, here are my concerns. I have the shoulder that's kind of been injured before. I'm nervous about re-injuring it, but I also want to start Jiu-Jitsu, and see what they can offer you. If they can kind of, you know, educate you or give you some advice or some information, you know, they can say that they can tailor classes, or they can adjust classes, or adjust your training in a way that's going to make you feel more secure and more safe. Number five is honestly look at maybe doing a private class. So I know it's kind of expensive. I know it can be a little bit like, if you don't know if you like Jiu-Jitsu, spending money for a private session one-on-one with an instructor can be a little bit, it can be a lot, you know, but you're going to really figure out what your body can and can't do, and you're going to figure out whether you can, you know, load your joint, if you can move in certain ways, and you're also going to do that in a safe environment where it's just you one-on-one with someone that's trained, that knows kind of the mechanics of Jiu-Jitsu and the positioning in Jiu-Jitsu, so they can give you some really good advice, and maybe even start with some good techniques, or even stop any bad habits before they start. So doing a private may be a good idea, not always necessary, but it's an option. Number six would be, you know, start with drilling. If you do a beginner class, you know, usually it's going to be positional movement, positional drilling. You may not do a lot of training like live rolling or live training to begin with. So it should be a safe environment. You know, you're gonna, once you kind of get used to some of the movements, you'll get, you know, some basic positions. You'll see what your shoulder feels like with those movements, and also with moving around with another person on the mats. That's going to help you kind of get an idea on what's going on. Number seven is going to be, let your training partner know kind of what's going on. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, if you're dealing with a little injury, to, you know, tell your training partner, hey, my shoulder's kind of messed up, would you just watch it, you know, make sure that, you know, and it's okay if they can even, you can ask them not to attack that shoulder, or you can say, hey, if you get a hold of the shoulder, I'm going to tap pretty quickly just to let you know this is kind of what's going on. the only caveat to that, the only thing is that if your shoulder is injured, don't go after your partner's shoulder. So it's kind of like, you know, if I can't do this for you, like if I can't go after your neck because your neck's injured or you have something that's tweaked in your neck, then you should not go after the other person's neck either. So it just kind of makes it more of an even, fair playing field. So yeah, so it's okay to tell your partner, hey man, my shoulder's tweaked, let's just go light, or let's just move around a little bit. That's okay, and as long as you set those ground rules before you go and start moving and training, that's a great way to kind of hopefully curb that likelihood that you're going to re-injure or re-aggravate that shoulder while you're getting used to moving on the mats. So tap early and tap often. You know, if you are a newbie to jiu-jitsu, man, I know that I got tapped so many times, and you know, I got really good at, you know, the one thing was I got good at knowing when I was in a bad position, or better at knowing that. So it's important to, you know, if you feel like that shoulder's compromised, don't wait for somebody to crank on it. Just tap. You know, you'll get a better feel for, you know, what you can and can't take if you get in a submission, you know, how much time you have to tap. But tap early, tap often. If you're a white belt, it's all learning experience, and the goal is longevity. So, you know, if you start jiu-jitsu, the one thing that I see when people start jiu-jitsu is they get so addicted to it and they want to do it every day, twice a day, and a lot of times your body is just not prepared for that. So there's a really great process of acclimating your body to jiu-jitsu. So listen to your body, you know, start slow. Even though you have that drive and that pull to train all the time, limit yourself for a while. And that number is going to vary between, you know, every individual. So you may do great with 3 days a week or 5 days a week. It just depends. But you have to listen to your body, and it's easier to start slower and then ramp your way up. And the other advantage of doing that is actually you're going to keep that hunger for learning. You're not going to burn yourself out on jiu-jitsu, because sometimes people get so into it and they burn out really early and they kind of lose some motivation to learn or to train. So I think that if you pace yourself a little bit at the beginning, it can really drive your hunger to learn, and it might keep you more consistent on the mats and hopefully keeping your injuries at bay. So Noobs Online, I hope that this video was helpful. I appreciate the question. If you have any other questions, or anybody listening, shoot me a comment down below. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time for another video.